Luca Nation. So what we wanted to do here was we have exactly an hour. It'll probably be a little bit less than that, actually. And Cage has been giving you guys takes from, sell Jalen Hurts to sell Trevor Lawrence. Kobe's not top 5. He's got hot takes, and our team does an amazing job clipping
them. Not a hot take.
Them.
Kobe not in the top 5 is not a hot take.
It's not a hot take, dude. Stop using that phrase. It's just somebody's opinion. He doesn't think Kobe's in the top 5. If it was like clickbait, then there wouldn't be like 95 comments saying I agree. I mean,
more of the comments say they agree.
Yeah.
Now,
if there's an over-under, like what's the over-under, Andrew? You're a Kobe lover. What's the over-under?
Are probably skewing a little older.
What's the over-under on Kobe's historical all-time ranking? Again, the criteria shifts, man. How much do rings matter? How much do MVPs matter? How much does defense matter? How much does his coach matter? How much does the era he played in matter?
How much does finishing my introduction matter so that people who are listening understand the context of what we're doing?
None. That doesn't matter at all. We know we're talking about Kobe Bryant and where he ranks on the all-time list historically using completely amorphous criteria, which is fun to discuss.
No one knows what amorphous means. Great. Second, what we're trying to do is he ranks at a certain position in the top 10 or top 15, depending on where you guys put your other players, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is Cage and Cajun are going to give you guys their top 10. And stay tuned because next week we'll do top 10 that are currently playing. So it's going to get fun. But right now, we're going to do top 10 greatest players of all time. And you're going to see, is Cage an Olajuwon, Shaq, Kareem guy? He loves the big man, the Tower of Power, that 1993 card. Is Cajun, that ball-dominant point guard? He's probably going to have John Stockton in his top 5, Steve Nash, Rajon Rondo. Who knows what we're going to get into? Top 10. Now, gentlemen, do you have your list prepared?
I don't, because you sent me a notice like 15 minutes ago, and so I'm not going to go on the record with the exact order, but I'll go on the record with why Kobe's not in the top 5. I'll go on the record with that because that's all I was coming to.
Well, how about this? The easy way to do that, the easiest way to do why Kobe's not in the top 5 is why don't we come up with who would be in the top 5 because that'll get to where Andrew wants to go. So we would say. And it's not for disrespect. God, please.
Dude, before we start, when did it become an insult to say that any particular player is one of the 8 greatest human beings that ever walked the face of the earth and played basketball? When did that become Kobe hate? Like Kobe, I think Kobe's in the 8 to 10 range. That's an insult. That's illogical. That's Kobe hate. I don't understand that. Like that.
Cajun, you're a top 10 content creator in the hobby space. Disrespectful or not?
It's horribly disrespectful. I'm top 5. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I would be happy
where I rank on anybody's rankings. Like,
are you kidding me? Because everybody's got their own flavor. Everybody's got their own way of doing it, right? Everybody's got their own stuff. So 100%, man. I mean, come on now. I'll take that any day.
So, Cajun, you're someone who does a show every single week. You and Pix talk about, MVPs in the 1930s, 40s, 50s when you guys watch ball. You don't have a top 10 prepared? You can't.
I don't have a top 10 prepared. You know why? Because it's changing. You know why? Because somebody just snuck into my top 10, which I never thought would. I never thought it was going to happen. It's still changing, dude. It's still changing because LeBron is still playing freaking basketball.
But I mean, LeBron is still playing basketball, so that's going to be potentially moving him up to 1
out of the
top
something
10.
It's going to change the order. It could. I mean, it would be very difficult. It's not going to change my LeBron order, but some people don't have LeBron second, obviously, based on the response to your post. What if LeBron plays 6 more seasons and wins 3 titles? I mean, shit, is that not going to change some people's opinion? I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he should or that he maybe even could. But, what if Steph Curry wins 3 more? What if Durant wins 4?
That's completely valid. Completely valid.
Yeah,
I'll give you. So I'll tell you. Why don't we start off because Andrew has a top 10. Why don't we do it this way? I'll try to lead the conversation, right? And you're right. It does change over time. I think if we did this probably 15, 20 years ago, Oscar Robertson would make people's top 10. I doubt he's going to make ours, but you know what? He potentially could be. You know,
3 years ago, it would be different, Cage.
He potentially could be. So I mean, you know, let's talk about that. So I think you and I are both going to agree Michael Jordan is number one.
Yeah, let's not discuss it.
We don't even have to.
Move on.
I'm going to put LeBron at number 2. Now here's where it gets interesting, right? Some people might put LeBron 1. Some people might make up 2. This is where I'm going to actually ask for Andrew's input. What I noticed on my post, and I was expecting this and was hoping to kind of like take the conversation a layer deeper, is Kobe fans, when they are really battling for Kobe, the Kobe supporters, I don't ever really see a Kobe person say he's better than Jordan. Some people will say, okay, he's 1 or 1A, 1B to Jordan. He's like the closest thing to Jordan. Him and Jordan are the GOATs. But almost regularly, there's a disrespect for LeBron. And people will say Kobe is better than LeBron. You got to put him above LeBron, almost universally. This is not in Andrew. You're not doing this. You're being reasonable and you're giving basketball acumen and the whole deal. But if you look at the comments, a lot of the Kobe. Come on, Kobe was clutch. Kobe was this. LeBron lost all the finals. Like he's better than LeBron. He's clear. Why do you think that is? And Cajun, after Andrew comments as the Kobe fan, you've been around cards and basketball longer than either of us. You know, my thought on that is, it kind of dovetails with what you were just talking about, how things change over time. And there's a recency bias, and the younger folks will like their person, which is why you might be right. Steph may move up into the top 7, 8. Like, who knows what he's going to do? Maybe he moves to the top 5.
Who knows?
And I think that this generation, when my son grows up, and he's doing this in 10, 15, 20 years and having an analysis of the top 10, he might say Curry's top 3 all time. And move Kareem out of the list because he never saw Kareem play. I just showed him Airplane, and that's where he knows Kareem from, the movie Airplane. You know what I mean? And he moved. He put Kareem on his team now on the Bucks.
Right.
He put his Kareem on his NBA 2K team because we had to watch Kareem footage. But there was a recency bias there. Is that part of it? Did the Kobe fans watch him playing and he was chasing Jordan to be the best, and then LeBron came and LeBron was chasing Kobe, and the Kobe fans are like, LeBron never got there. Is that fair, Andrew? Do you see that? Not for your own opinion, but just in Kobe fans, in really like Kobe lunatics, I'm going to call them, like real Kobe supporters, fanboys.
I think the biggest talent that LeBron was chasing was Kareem. We've never seen anyone from high school to pros from the get dominate.
Fair for comparison. I mean, it's definitely a fair comparison.
Jordan and Kobe is a fair comparison because you even see the 1997 All-Star game when Kobe made it and they were going against each other. Kobe talks about how Jordan took him under his wing from the get. He saw something in him, you know, it's like his little brother or his big brother, whichever one. So I think LeBron is more of a Kareem comp.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a great role, right? So Cajun, I think it's...
Well, Kareem, let's start from the beginning. Kareem was a Wilt comp, right? Wilt was a freak of nature. Wilt was playing secret pro basketball as a 16-year-old, and he was 7 foot tall when 7-footers didn't walk the face of the earth, or at least not in North America. So Kareem followed in Wilt's footsteps / Russell. We're going to group Wilt and Russell together for purposes of this. So Kareem was the next one, right? Can you live up to the hype? Super hyped. He would have been the number 1 draft pick as a 15-year-old, you know, go through all that stuff. Exact same things were said about LeBron. And even though LeBron's not a 7-foot monster, you're right, Andrew. That's the comp and the next great one, right? And there was guys in between that were supposed to fill that gap between Kareem and LeBron, but they didn't do it, right?
Kareem, by the way, where this list gets interesting. Okay, I have him at 3. I have him a clear-cut 3. And I think Kareem, I have him a clear-cut 3.
So you have LeBron passing Kareem?
I have LeBron.
I think that's the argument. That's the argument that is still being decided. I also have LeBron ahead of Kareem, but I don't have anybody remotely close to those 3.
I think that's fine. The top 3
in that conversation,
just so that we can have it for people listening, for people checking out the top 10. Why, right? So, and I put this in the comments. You guys can check this out. I think the Kareem one is where people lose it because Kareem wasn't flashy. Kareem is the opposite of today's game. He had the sky hook was his shot, which was impossible to stop.
Who would you rather watch play basketball, Kareem or Kobe? Kobe.
Yeah, Kobe. I mean,
raise my hand 100 times over.
And if Kareem played his style of basketball in today's game, he wouldn't even be in the top 30 jerseys being sold. He just wouldn't because nobody wants to watch it. It's. I mean, believe it or not, Jokic You know what I mean? The stats are there, and people are not going to be. My son wore a Jokic jersey to school today, so I shouldn't say that. He put it on. He's like 30-something point triple double, big win last night. He put his jersey on. But just so that we have it out there, right? For Kareem won 6 MVPs, 6 MVPs, and he played for a long time, right? He played for 6-7 years with the Bucks to start his career off, 69 to 75, and then played with the Lakers from 75 all the way through 89. I mean, the tail end of his career, he was a shadow of himself. It wasn't his team anymore, and it was Magic's team, Worthy's team. But he was still there, and he was still, the career numbers get reduced a little bit because of that, because he was playing, for so long.
Career averages, not aggregate counting stats, right? He played 200 more games than Kobe. He played 200 more games than Kobe, and I wish Kobe hadn't done his Achilles. I would,
Kobe's numbers would be great, man. But I mean, even with that, even with the reduction, even with him playing as an old man at the end of his career, he still had career average of 11.2 rebounds and 3.6 assists per game. On top of the 6 MVP awards, right? 19-time All-Star, 6 championships, right? The first and the last ones coming 17 years apart, right? I mean, that's pretty nuts. 15 in all NBA teams and 10 first-team selections, right? I mean, and what do you have? 11 all NBA teams, all NBA defensive. I mean, Andrew, you were talking about
11 all defensive, but all 15 defensive. Times all NBA. That's a decade and a half, and Kobe's there with him. Those are indistinguishable. What's not indistinguishable is that 6 MVPs is a lot. Now, part of the problem with the Kareem argument is that he played in the weakest era. The 70s was the weakest era. Yep. It was the easiest era to win MVP, right? Yep. We'll just leave it at that. We won't say it's the weakest era because the talent was split between the ABA and the NBA for a little bit of that, right? Yep. So a lot of the contenders to win those MVPs. Now, I'm not going to put nearly as much stock in MVPs. I don't weight MVPs as much. It's a factor, but I don't weight MVPs as much as all NBA first teams, right? I don't, because we know how the history of the MVP award voting is. We know Nash won one that he shouldn't have, and it should have been Shaq's. We know that Wilt should have all of them from his career. We know that Jordan should have won it 57 times. So MVPs, I'm throwing that. I don't put as much weight on that as a lot of people do, and that's kind of the one thing that people really hang their hat on with the Kareem argument is he had 6 MVPs. And he has the most points ever scored. Well, he's about to get passed by a guy who's not, theoretically a score-first guy. I mean, Kobe's sole purpose on the court was to get you buckets, similar to Jordan's. And obviously, he was a great defender. I know Kobe could pass, and I know he's a better-than-average rebounder, I guess, for his position. But he was a scorer. If you said, what is Kobe in one word, you'd say scoring – well, 2 words. You'd say scoring freaking machine, right?
Yep. Scoring
king.
Well,
Kareem – I mean,
and he would score more in today's game too, because he'd be shooting more threes.
As I was putting this list together, I made my own 10. One of the hardest things for me was to compare across decade, across era. Yeah. So I found a number. I'll throw it out to you guys, and you'll tell me what you think. So on StatMuse is amazing, guys. StatMuse.com. Most points per game in a decade by NBA is what I was trying to figure out. So 1960s was the highest scoring era, where they averaged on average 115 points a game. Second is 2020s right now, where they're averaging 111.9 points per game. 1980s was 109 points a game. 1970s was 108 points a game. Now watch this drop off from those top 4. 2010s was 102 points per game. The 1990s was 100 points per game. The 2000s was 96.9 points a game. The 1950s was 90 points a game. And the 1940s, no one knew how to do anything. They were scoring 73 points a game.
That's why you haven't heard me mention points per game.
Yep.
I don't need to mention.
I have Kareem on my top 5, but he's not 3 for me. And the reason being is because Kareem, to me, put the wins and the MVPs aside, is sort of was a beneficiary of an era of high scoring, the way that in today's day and age, James Harden, Dame Lillard will have higher stats compared to guys in the past because of the high scoring. So Kareem, to me, is top 5, not top 3. I actually have Wilt ahead of Kareem.
Kareem had 6 championships, though.
I understand that. We could talk about those, because I think he was also the beneficiary of having Magic for 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, for a couple of them. Yep. 100%. Listen, I mean,
when you have another top 5, top 10.
Well, he had Magic for all of them but 1, right? Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, he won the one with the Bucks. With
he won before. Yeah, he won, but he had
just the one. And then I think the rest were Magic, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. No, listen, Kareem. You can argue a whole bunch of stuff. There's longevity there, and there's the counting stats are there. The Bucks was his, and the dude was a freak. But I'm with you, Andrew. But the fun part is this is where it gets interesting, right? And why I don't think anyone should be insulted if you're on these lists anywhere from this 3 to 8, right? Anywhere in this middle here, which is why the post of he's not top 5, but he's top 10 becomes real interesting to people, right? Because I could even understand somebody saying, all right, it's almost interchangeable. And you got your list. I'd love to hear who you put at 3. You put Wilt at 3? Is that what you said?
Yes, I did.
You put Wilt at. See, I don't even have Wilt in my top 5.
I have Wilt 4.
How can you not put Wilt in your top 3? There's no one who's done individually.
He changed more rules than anybody. Yeah, he changed rules. Like they changed rules because of Wilt. Like they changed the way
talking about greatest players
size of the court. They changed the size of the lane.
Yep.
They changed the rule. You used to be able to inbound the ball over the backboard. You no longer can do that because they would throw it over the backboard.
Right to him, dunk it. Yeah.
You used to be able to dunk free throws. They changed the rule because Wilt would finger roll free throws. Now you can't land on the other side before the ball hits there. I mean, they changed.
He would actually jump the free throw and finger.
He would literally take a step and finger roll free throws, and so then he became a terrible free throw shooter. Like, dude, Wilt's difficult. Wilt's very difficult. Here's one problem I have. Like, Cage, I think your post is whatever. You can call it clickbait or whatever you want, but people can't say. Well, I don't care. People, I don't care about that. People can't say that you have a recency bias. And that's why you don't have Kobe in your top 5 because you have freaking Kareem in your top 5. So you can't say you have a recency bias. That's certainly not the case. It's almost like the other way around. They could call you a grumpy old man who won't let go of Kareem and put Kobe in front. That's funny, fine.
Right? You guys have Wilt, Kareem, right? I have Wilt at 6, by the way. Just I'm not a lunatic where I'm putting it.
So we agree. Jordan and Kareem. LeBron. And LeBron are in your 3 and whatever.
But Andrew doesn't have 3 as Wilt, right?
So who would be
here's where
who's 4 and 5 ahead of who is 4 and 5 ahead of Wilt for you?
So the only reason why I drop Wilt down a little bit is the championships. Wilt 1-2, right? Wilt 1-2. I get it. I understand what
the Celtics. That's why you can't wait rings.
But he didn't. But he didn't. He didn't.
But
right?
Did.
So what if LeBron played for the Golden State Warriors? Would you put him ahead of your boy Jordan?
I don't know. He might have 12 rings.
So we don't know, right? We don't know.
That's why you eliminate that. That's why you should eliminate that from the equation.
You can eliminate, but now you've eliminated championships and you've eliminated
like
scoring.
Dan Marino versus Trent Dilfer. Let's do football. Dan Marino versus Trent Dilfer.
You can't compare across sport.
What we're doing though is we're comparing the stats of what actually happened, not what didn't happen. So when you're doing greats, and this is a great conversation, Cage, and I love what you're saying, and I love why Andrew takes Kareem and knocks him down a peg because he was on a great team, right? He did have a great team. What I don't know what Kareem would have been if he would have been on, a crappier team. I don't know what would have happened there. I don't. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm looking at the stats the way they exist. I'm looking at the MVPs the way they were awarded. I'm looking at
the teammates they had and the coaches.
Now, if you want to have a top 10 conversation on who were the best offensive, defensive players, the most outstanding individual talents in the league, that's a different conversation, right? But I think when you're talking about
it's a totally different because
you might even put Kobe up there.
Well, of course, you and I agree. Like we're not sitting here saying, Oscar Robertson could play on a basketball court with Kobe Bryant. Like he would get ripped to shreds. Like it's a totally different era. Like the
what's
players
funny
now
for
are
me,
better.
This is why I know Kobe gets moved in, right?
Paper resume. We're talking paper resume, right?
Even 3 with Kareem. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like I can make an argument that all of those guys, and I'm going to tell you their names now. I would buy a ranking of any of them, right? So I'm talking about Wilt and Bill Russell because obviously you have those comparisons, right? And Russell, I mean, I'll spend a minute for each one of these guys if you want, right? And then you guys tell me what your thought is, right? So I have Bill Russell. I actually put at 4, right? Just even though his career scoring average, I know you throw scoring out was only 15 points a game. He averaged almost 23 rebounds a game and 11 titles in 13 years. I don't know if he would have played 17. I don't know what he would have done. Obviously, that team was great. He was the foil. It's the two of them. 5 MVP awards, 11 All-NBA selections. I mean, just a beast there. You want to put him 7 or 8? Fine. I put him 4. This is what I'm talking about, that interchangeability. The only other guy I put ahead of Wilt was Magic. All right, I put Magic Johnson. I have Magic at 5. Right, and Bird. It's funny how you have those pairings, right? Bird would be my other one there. Why I put Magic higher? 20 points a game, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals. I mean, we talk about Wilt changing the game. Magic revolutionized the game, brought the game into the television era, made it Showtime, tallest point guard in league history at the time. Nobody saw a 6'9" point guard before, right?
Yeah.
A winner, great passer, great team, a triple-double waiting to happen. Now we talk about triple-doubles pretty regularly. He was the triple-double guy when people just weren't doing it as much.
Right.
Showtime Lakers went to 9 NBA finals, won 5 titles. I mean, the dude was just, he was fantastic. You want to argue, that maybe he should be 8 and, somebody else should be, or he should be 7. So I have in this meaty middle here, your Kareem at 3, your Bill Russell at 4, your Magic at 5, Wilt, if you want to go through his numbers, I have him at 6, obviously 30 points a game average, 22 rebounds, 4 assists. I knocked him down a peg just because of the 2 championships. I understand what you're saying. I could easily put him at 3 or 4, just like Andrew has him and you have him. 7, you have, Larry Legend, 25 points a game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, almost 2 steals. I mean, it's funny how I have him there, and you can understand, people who are younger fans will try to move Kobe up. I have these were the matchups, right? It was
those were the decisions
Magic,
to make, right?
Bill and Bill Russell and Wilt. But I mean, 5 NBA finals, 3 championships, league MVP 3 consecutive seasons, 84, 85, and 86 for Bird. Something only Wilt and Bill Russell had accomplished. So the only 3 guys, Wilt
and he's
Bill
the last
Russell.
one to do it. And now we've got there's a chance for history with Jokic.
I mean, best small forward ever until LeBron came along. So that brings me to 7. And I would probably put Kobe, but you can make an argument here, because now you're talking about guys like Tim Duncan, like Shaq, like
Tim
Kobe.
Duncan.
I would probably put Kobe in right here. But remember, think of how meaty that middle is here, that 3 to 7. And, that's why the post is not clickbait. That's why the post is, he's right there. Right there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's one of those fun things. It's a great conversation. And obviously, yes, when you have a Kobe post, the Kobe people are going to come out and really come at you, right? I mean, Kobe makes my top 10. I have Kobe at 8. And then I have Shaq and Tim Duncan to round it out.
Cajun thoughts? I have some thoughts. I spread out my list similar to that, actually, Cage. I like how, because I do think it's top 3, then 4 through 9, and I actually think 10 through 12 gets tough for me as well, and that's kind of where it caps off. It was really hard for me to put the last 10, the 10th spot. Cajun, any thoughts on what Cage said there?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Bird, Kobe, Shaq, Tim Duncan is a bitch. There's no way around it. If you said make an argument, I can go make a great argument for all those guys over and above each other, and then disparage one for one reason or another. Again, Tim Duncan's almost like the modern Kareem in that he was fucking boring, man. Excuse my language, but damn, man. I mean, it was boring as shit to watch the dude. Yep. And you're like, he couldn't really jump, but go look at his block shots. He couldn't really move laterally. Really? Well, go look at his all NBA defensive teams.
2.2 blocks a game for his career.
Go look at Kobe's. Go look at Kobe's accolades versus Tim Duncan's accolades. Just go look. Like, people don't even. They don't. It's not even in their brain. They're like Kobe versus LeBron. Hold on a second. Go look at Tim Duncan. Like, go look at Kobe versus Tim Duncan across the board. And it's very tough to distinguish those 2 players. I might be biased. Well, I am biased. I mean, Bird was
Bill
my
Russell
era.
as a winner, right? Duncan had 1,001 regular season wins with his team, the most for any player with any franchise ever. I mean, a winner, 5 championships, won 1,000 games. I mean, Kobe played for a long time with the Lakers, didn't win 1,000 games. I mean, you're right. Put their head-to-head, numbers against each other, man. I mean, the dude, no team has ever had a more winning player.
Tim Duncan in 2001, by the way.
I get it, head-to-head. This is why I actually put him ahead of Tim Duncan, Andrew. I'm trying to be reasonable.
Yeah, good luck guarding Shaq, man. I mean, I'm not going to penalize Kobe for playing with Shaq, somebody was like, well, Kobe did it twice, in the 2000s without another top 75 player. That's great, but it's a team game. It's not two players, right? Kobe's got 3 rings with arguably one of the greatest big men that ever walked the face of the earth, and probably the second most unstoppable NBA player in history behind Wilt. Shaq is probably the second most dominant player in NBA history, and Jordan had Pippen. And, some people would think Pippen is not a top 275 player if he didn't have Jordan. So you can put him in the top 75, but not everybody in the top 75 is the same, right? You can't say Pippen's a top 75 and Shaq's a top 75. That's the same thing.
Listen, when they do a top 100, Pippen's doing everything he can to not be invited to those top meetings. See, like he doesn't shut up.
He's not going to be invited, right? So Pippen's got more haters than you do on Instagram.
They love
when you guys think of Bo Jackson, what do you guys think?
What?
Bo Jackson. What's the first thing you think?
I think we were all robbed of the potential that he would have had. He could have been great.
Nostalgic.
Incredible athlete. Right?
I think he's the second greatest athlete that ever lived. Run, kick, throw, lift, jump, all that stuff.
We all come out the gate with a certain level of just innate talent, right? We all different capacities, so to speak, right? And that my top 3, and Shaq could get into this top 3. The issue was, unlike these other guys, Shaq didn't take care of his natural giftedness. If you actually look at his photos now, he's in better shape now than he actually was at some years playing.
At the end of his career. Yeah, you're right about that.
So, for me, Jordan, LeBron, and Wilt, unlike all the other guys we talked about, they were just everybody here is athletic, but they were gifted with just an insane level of different athletic ability. Like Jordan's hand size, his ability to float, is second to none. Wilt's athleticism, the guy is, that's insane. We haven't seen an athlete like him ever since then. LeBron, we talk about his longevity, but out the gate, the guy was an insane athlete. Yeah. And Shaq too. So those 4 to me, you could say, everyone here is athletic, but these guys were more athletic and they played to their capacity. So my 3 are Jordan, LeBron, and Wilt, and Shaq would be in there if he took care of his body. So then
I disagree.
I
disagree, Andrew. Think apart. In what way?
Just to disagree.
I'm about to tell you why. I'm just going to throw a name out there. Why you're talking about potential, just physical prowess, out the womb and what they look like and what they could do, and as far as run and jump and things like that. Vince Carter was taller than Jordan, longer than Jordan, had a better reach than Jordan, and jumped higher than Jordan.
But he didn't accomplish
everything about Vince Carter.
The rest of this 12 did.
What?
Right. So hypothetically, if Vince Carter finished with 6 rings and a scoring titles and MVPs, he was talking about potential.
Just talking about what God gave you. Kevin Durant was given more by God than Jordan. Kevin Durant's 6'11" and could shoot it better than Jordan. Had bigger hands than Jordan. Had a longer reach than Jordan.
You're comparing the wrong people. You're comparing to Jordan. I'm saying that Kevin Durant would also fall in this category of everybody's talented. Bird is even athletic. Like we say,
he's
Bird's
trying to say somebody like Kobe gets to move up the list a little bit because he had to work harder because he didn't get the God-given gifts. No, I'm using him as an example. Right?
Yeah, I've heard you say that Kobe wasn't that athletic. Kobe was freakishly athletic. He was very, very freaking athletic.
It was a pretty average. Oh, okay.
Average.
Look, he said this, and Phil Jackson said this, but sure, I'll listen to Cajun Cardboard on this one.
You're right. Well, I'm going to listen to Andrew Goldberg tell me Kobe Bryant wasn't athletic. Have you do you have internet access?
Phil Jackson and Kobe explained that Michael Jordan was significantly more athletic. Jordan was faster. Mm-hmm. Jordan could jump higher, and Jordan had bigger hands.
Jordan's not the barometer for athleticism. Jordan is in a whole separate argument. But for you to say Kobe Bryant is not – did you say Kobe Bryant's not as athletic as Jordan? I've heard you say Kobe Bryant wasn't athletic.
You're a shockingly terrible listener because I hedged this like 6 times.
I'm with you. I understand what you're saying. But, there are other greats in that top 10 that I would put in what you're saying. It's almost like an honors class gets 2 extra points on it because, it's a harder class. Larry Bird, one of the most unathletic people in the world. Look at that dude. He can't even jump. And he managed to be top 10 also. So
I'm not giving Bird and Kobe extra credit. What my top 3 with Shaq as a top 4 is these guys were all-time greats. They put up all the numbers we talked about. We could mix up those numbers into the blender however we want, while also being gifted with the 1% of the 1%. So they are the most athletic of the most athletic people. which is what helped propel them to the top 3. And Shaq would have been in that top 4, given he would have taken care of that God-gifted athleticism. 7'1", incredible feet, incredible footwork, incredible balance.
You know, I'm the biggest Shaq fan out there. I'm the biggest big man fan, but I put Kobe ahead of Shaq. Shaq only won 1 MVP. You know what I mean? And you know, Shaq was one of those. Yeah, Shaq was one of those guys, though, that, you know, he was a Finals MVP. He showed up when it mattered. But Kobe, I would say, was more clutch. I think Kobe did more. I think Kobe's all-around game was better than Shaq. I love Shaq. You know this. You know I'm a huge Shaq fan. But I'm not – if it were, hey, I got one spot left in the top 5, I'm going to put Shaq ahead of Kobe. No, that would be unreasonable. There are other people.
I tie them together. I tied Bird and Magic together and Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
Where I struggled was I actually had Bill Russell 12th. And
wow.
It's
okay.
And to me, so Tim Duncan and Bill Russell to me kind of are the same bucket. I didn't get a chance to see Bill Russell play, so I don't know how good he was. Numbers are great, but what's behind those numbers? What's behind those 15 points a game? I didn't have the luxury of watching Bill Russell play. I did get a chance to watch Tim Duncan play, so Tim Duncan was like my 7th spot, where I could easily swap Bill Russell into the 7th spot and put Tim Duncan at 12.
Bill Russell's impossible. I'll tell you right now, if you polled 10,000 people who think they know basketball, you would get Bill Russell number 1. You would give Bill Russell number 17. And there's nobody else in this conversation at all that you'll ever have with that big a disparity from top to bottom. Bill Russell's impossible to gauge because he wasn't better than Wilt Chamberlain. But he had 11 freaking rings, and the goal of professional team sports is to win rings, and he did it better than anybody else.
And the opposite of him for these lists, and KJ, you mentioned him also, the Big O, right? Oscar Robertson, right? I mean, like, he's a guy I've seen on lists as high as 4, right? I don't have him in my top 10. I put him around. But what's funny about it is I put him at 11, but I think in 5-10 years, I'll move Steph Curry ahead of him. Kevin Durant might move ahead of him. Hakeem Olajuwon has kind of maybe even passed him. The reason for that, Andrew, is that he's still the only player in NBA history who sits top 10 all time in points per game and assists per game. I mean, like that. Yeah.
Where's LeBron?
LeBron, LeBron's assists per game are not there. He's got a higher assist per game. Yeah, I know he led the league once, but check it. Take a look.
I'm going to check it right now because I'm pretty sure LeBron's either in or damn close to the top 10.
Oh, yeah. So take a look. Top 10.
You keep talking. I'll go
that
look.
cigar smoking coach that ran the league for a while. That was a very shady character. Red
LeBron's 6, Cage.
Trust that.
And in points and all-time points. Also, what's his all-time points? You know how many times?
All-time points. You know where he is. He's second.
Points per game.
Oh, per game. I thought you were talking about his career assists. Oh, my bad. Yeah,
not total counting. Per game.
I stand corrected. I thought you were talking about total assists. Yeah, LeBron's right there.
Per game. So
LeBron's going to have the best counting stats.
But that guy,
he's played the longest. He's been the number one option.
But he only won 1 championship, and Oscar, and it was with Kareem, right? So he triple-double for a whole season. So like Westbrook, I mean, this was the guy who put up numbers like crazy: 26 points per game, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, almost 10 assists for his career. But he's going to fall the opposite of Bill Russell. It's funny, you know, like depending upon where you put individual stats and team stats, you could flip-flop those guys. And I have a feeling you're right. I mean, this is a guy who was in any list 10 years ago was a top 10 player, Oscar Robertson. And he could fall to 20 soon.
I don't think anybody would have Oscar Robertson in their top 10 today. But you're right. I think 10 years ago, it's possible.
It's crazy.
So we know Tim Duncan, you know, had Ginobili, Tony Parker, Robert Horry, David Robinson. You guys can put them on your list wherever you want. This is a fun little site, basketball.realgm.com. I searched who were Bill Russell's teammates, right? Because I don't even know. So I'll read you guys some of their teammates and their points per game. You guys could weigh in if this helps or supports his case or not. His number 1 teammate was actually John Havlicek.
Sam Jones averaged the most points. Yeah,
be patient, young fella. I'll get to Sammy Jones. Bill Sharman, don't know that guy. Bailey Howell, Tom Hainson, and then Sam Jones right there was 5th. In scoring, Bob Cousy, Frank Ramsey, Larry Siegfried, Satch Sanders, and all the way down. None of those guys really stick out to me.
Dude, Havlicek is the top 20, maybe top 20 player of all time. 20, You need to look at Havlicek. Havlicek was a damn killer. Like, he was the real deal.
Looked at him. He's an old white man right now. There's not much I could look back. There's not a ton of highlights on him. I have seen his photo. They say he's an incredible athlete. I think he went professional football first.
Relax. I'm not saying that Havlicek can go guard Antonio McDyess or Amari Stoudemire. I'm simply saying in his era, the numbers he put up, you know, are preposterous numbers compared to his peers at the time. Again, I want to be really clear about this. There's no one from back then other than Wilt Chamberlain who could possibly consider playing basketball in today's NBA. Like Oscar Robertson would be a freaking doormat today. Go watch the film. And I'm going to get slammed for that by a bunch of people older than me. It's a fact. Go watch Oscar Robertson dribble a basketball and go compare it to what you watch on NBA today. Different level of skill.
Different. When you hear those teammates, does that do you have more respect and you move Bill Russell up the list? Do you move it down the list, or does it not affect it at all?
I mean, listen, I can't move Bill Russell much higher than the 4 that I have him at. You know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying. And listen, it's fun because we all have a different way of looking at it, right? I mean, Spinatron, who's obviously the Kobe collector, came into my comments and said basically like Kobe's number 1 because he won back-to-back championships with nobody on his team. And that's obviously something that you would take into account, right? That you carry,
Didn't Isaiah Thomas do that?
Isaiah Thomas had, you could argue Dumars and Rodman and, argue are decent players. Point is, yes, that's why I said people will argue it a different way. And you're saying, hey, Isaiah Thomas, who I put in top 25 to 40-ish range of all-time players. It depends what you're looking at, right? I mean, Bill Russell, if you're a championship guy, as Gajan said, that's the ultimate goal of team sports. Bill Russell gets ranked higher in your book. If you're a stats guy, Russell only averaged 15 and change points a game. It doesn't look so great as far as like putting him in the top 5 or 10 of all time. Tom Brady made a list and he didn't put Bill Russell in his top 10. He just made it last week.
The problem with Russell is he's just not.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not as good as Will
because Russell was
by
trolling
any statistical measure
the
except
rings.
rings. Yeah.
You remember after Tom Brady won his ring, Bill Russell went on to Twitter, I think it was, or Instagram, and posted, "Hey, you're getting closer," but he had all his rings on,
Yeah.
So, but
I love
Brady's
Russell,
list. He had Kevin Durant in his top 10. Brady. So.
I don't agree with that Spinatron take because I got to watch Kobe and I watched that a lot. Lamar Odom is a guy no one talks about that was a very versatile third option on that team. And he was a good player. He was an 18-10 who could do a lot of stuff. He could take the ball up the court. Lamar Odom was a good role player in his day. And Powell was,
Powell's going to be a Hall of Famer, is he not?
Yeah, and if you watch the JJ Redick podcast with Fred VanVleet, they talk about the teams running a Spain option on the court now. That came from that Spanish team, right? So, like, the passing of a big man, that was Pau Gasol before you had Jokic doing that. So, the disrespect for Pau to me is crazy. I think he's a fantastic player.
Is Pau Gasol a better player than Tony Kukoc?
Kukoc. My sister were watching The Last Dance, and Charles Barkley called him Kukoc. And she just walks around the house saying Kukoc and just cracking up.
He mispronounced everything. Yeah.
I never got to see Kukoc really. I don't know.
It's interesting.
Who's your guys' 10? Who's the after we go through these guys who's except for LeBron, no one else is playing. Who was the 10? Did Curry make it? Did Hakeem make it? Who was that final guy?
I'll run through mine. I got them just jotted down. I'm not going to get. I'm not going to have them
made.
I'm not going to get into order, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to give you the order. So these are in my top 10, and I don't think this is changing. Kobe, Kareem, LeBron, Wilt, Bird, Magic, Shaq. Those are the 8, and then Bill Russell is just a freaking pain in the ass anomaly that I don't know how to deal with. I don't know how to deal with Bill Russell, and I just don't know how to deal with him. But I would probably put Bill Russell in my top 10.
Russell's in there. I think we're going to wind up with the same top 10, right? Just in different order.
Then you've got Duncan. Right? Duncan is also there. Duncan is right there and indistinguishable from Kobe and Shaq. Duncan,
I'll
Kobe,
give you my
Shaq.
order, Andrew. It's Jordan, LeBron, Kareem. Then I had Bill Russell. I know, people go nuts, but it's a team sport. Bill Russell.
I can't.
Then I got Magic at 5, Wilt at 6. I got Larry Bird at 7, and Kobe at 8. And like I said, you can make an argument that that's 3 to 8. That's why I say top 5. That's why I say right in the beginning, let's not call it a hot take. First of all, to say top 5, top 8. I have him at 8. The question is top 5. He's clearly in my top 10. To round that out, I have Shaq right behind him at 9, and I have Duncan at 10. If you want to talk about like where 11 and the rest of those go, You get into your Hakeem Olajuwon.
It gets crazy there. Yeah, it gets real crazy.
I can give you kind of where I sit with those guys also, but that, I mean, it gets a little interesting because it's very interchangeable. Curry and KD are both are in my top 15. Like, I can give it to you who just misses my top 10 cut if you want. And it changes, man, because if we did this a bunch of years ago, like Dwayne Wade might have been, in there. And, look, somebody like Charles Barkley or Kevin Garnett or Dirk Nowitzki, like, they're getting moved down the list closer to 20 for me now because of what KD and Steph are doing. No, but I mean, these guys are
people. Right. It's because life goes on.
Well, it's exactly right. I mean, because people come in and they play. So, I mean, I put Olajuwon at 11. I put Steph at 12. I put KD at 13. I had Dr. J at 14. I have Oscar Robertson at 15. I have Jerry West at 16. I have Karl Malone at 17. I have Moses Malone at 18. I have Dirk at 19. I have Kevin Garnett at 20. I didn't go past 20, but if you wanted me to,
did you say David Robinson?
I did not have David Robinson in my top 20.
No,
but I also don't have Charles Barkley
good.
and Elgin Baylor. Robinson would be like 24, 25 for me. I put like Barkley, Elgin Baylor.
No Stockton.
Stockton's right between 25 and 30. Isaiah. Stockton gets in there.
Look, dude.
You know what's funny? If you did this list like three, and by the way, Giannis would have to work its way right into right there, like right where like Moses Malone and that area. I was thinking of Giannis, and then I'm like, all right, Giannis will work his way into my top 20 of all time, 100%. He's close to top 20 now.
Is Giannis higher than Jokic for you?
Definitely.
Who?
Really?
Giannis is higher than Jokic.
He has definitely. To be. Jokic, you got to win.
You got to win. You got to win at least one to get into my top 20.
Win something.
You got to win something. Yeah.
Yeah, they both need to play longer. We need to let that. Let's not.
I mean, this isn't Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing was a talent
so,
also, but I mean.
So if you guys enjoy this banter debate, we'll bring these smart guys back for.
I love this, man. But listen, 3 years ago, Kawhi would have probably made my top 25 or 30, but he's not in it now. You know what I mean? Because 3 years ago, you go back to what Kawhi was doing.
He's not moving down because of anything, because he's not doing anything. So he's not moving down because he stays stagnant. The problem is people are passing him.
Correct.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Correct. Someone like Giannis is now moving past him 100%. Someone like KD and somebody like, but I mean, because you try to build in look at what he's done in half a career. You know what I mean?
Andrew, is Trae Young in your top 25?
Yeah, we do want to talk about Curry because Curry has 4 rings right now. He doesn't have some of the other accomplishments like MVPs, finals MVPs. He finally got it. But when we look back 20 years, the way we look back at, maybe Magic Johnson, you're going to be like, there's one guy that changed the entire league and holds basically every record for shooting. Yep. And this is a shooting league. So from that standpoint, you have accomplishments because also there's I have independent accomplishments, team accomplishments, maxing out talent are the criteria. But then there's also this intangible aura and legacy and story behind it.
Easy. He could crack top 10, 100%. And he won 2 MVPs, Andrew.
You could argue right now he's in the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't have him in mind. But before it's all said and done, let's see what happens with what's left of the Warriors as currently.
I have him at 12. You know what I mean?
I think he's in my 10, 11, 12, 13. 14.
How many guys get cheered from every single away crowd that they go to?
How many guys in your top 10 were not good defensive players? I don't mean all-time great defensive players. How many were just not good at defense? Less than the average.
I could say Curry is the.
That's why it's hard.
Although he only won 2 MVPs, I'd say he's the MVP of the decade. And we just went through all these names of the people who were there. We went all these names: the Wilts, the Bill Russells, the championships, all that stuff combined for me. Add Curry to the list. How many of those guys? Let's call it the top 12 players, however you want to put it. How many of those guys were unanimous MVPs? How many total unanimous MVPs in that list?
Yeah, but
Curry. Only one to do it.
Curry.
MVP.
And I just to say about defense, here's my issue. We're going to remember LeBron as with the block on Iguodala. Most people that actually watch know LeBron has potential to be a fantastic defender, is a good defender.
Yeah.
Selective defender is a good way to word that. So Curry does what he could do. He has a small stature, small frame. He gets mismatched. He obviously is a liability in a lot of ways on defense. But effort-wise, I'll be like, hey, LeBron did not max out his talent on the defensive end. This should
He
be a
didn't, but he
defensive
was
player of the year.
6-time all-defensive team. My point is, every single person in the top 10 is a better than average defender. Some of them were some of the greatest defenders ever, Kobe included. Kobe was one of the greatest perimeter defenders that ever played basketball. There's no question about that, and that is a huge feather in his cap for his argument. But let's talk about the other guys. All the other guys were badass defenders too.
Yep.
Maybe not for their entire career, but they were some good ass defenders. Nobody in there was a bad defender. And for the young people who think assume Bird because he was white and slow was a bad defender, you're wrong. He wasn't. He was one of the best defensive rebounders of all time, and that's part of defense. And he was a great team defender with some of the greatest pair of hands of all time.
What Curry has going for him is in 10 or 15 years, someone is going to post on whatever version of Instagram is existing at that point, probably Exchangegram, put it on the line. Someone's going to post, is Steph Curry a top 10 player of all time? And it will have exactly the same type of heat as today's Kobe top 5. And here's why. I like to hang out in the mailroom no matter where I work. You get the best conversations in the mailroom. You know, you get the most real conversations. And I remember hanging out in the mailroom at the law firm that I was working at in, what's called like 2007, 2008. And those guys would throw stuff out. And in the mailroom, you don't just throw things in the garbage. You shoot it. You crumple up that piece of paper, that legal filing, and you throw it into the garbage pail, into the wastebasket that's in the corner. And in 2008, 2009, those guys were chucking the ball, and they would go, Kobe. I go to the mailroom where I work now, and those guys are throwing out garbage, and they're yelling Curry. And they're shooting it from across the hall.
That's the advantage Curry has is, I think we're in agreement, the three of us, but I think almost everybody on planet Earth is in agreement. He is unequivocally the best at a certain thing, which is shooting a basketball from the perimeter. He is unquestionably the best perimeter basketball shooter of all time. And so that's a feather in his cap. That's the deal you can't argue.
Which is funny because for me, for Kareem, that's one of the things I take away from him is that he is a one-trick pony with the skyhook.
Well, that's a different trick. I mean, that's literally a trick. Nobody else has tried to do that, whereas everybody's trying to be Curry today.
They tried
Nobody
to
can.
By the way,
that's
they tried
the
to
difference,
teach Shaq
right?
the hook.
Yeah, and you keep saying Curry changed the way the game is played. I don't think Curry changed the way the game is played. I just think he plays the game the way it's played better than everybody else.
I think he changed it.
You think he changed it?
Yeah.
I don't, because I don't think it was
the
already
reliance
trending
on the
direction.
The analytics,
the game was trending that direction.
Yeah, but literally the fact that you could have a 3-on-1 breakaway and stop and pull up for a 3 is basically his part of the game. That's like his donation to modern
I think it's
basketball.
analytics. I think it's the computers. I think it's computers on the bench.
Though.
I think it's really smart guys who never played basketball telling basketball GMs and coaches, "Hey, this makes more sense than this." I don't know. Maybe
even if that's
it's a chicken and the egg.
He's the poster child for. You know how most computers have an Apple.
He is the
on
poster
it?
child.
Like,
yeah.
The analytics computer that changed the game has Steph Curry on the back of it.
The one thing you can't argue is who, regardless of why it's changed, he plays the game in the changed way better than anybody else plays the game in the changed way.
100%.
Last question and we'll wrap. So we talked about that Curry thing. 6'9" Magic was a center in, there was a 1982 finals, right? Would the skyhook work today with today's NBA, with today's defenders?
100%.
Yeah.
Cajun says yes.
Yeah, 100% for the right player.
Absolutely.
They tried to teach Shaq. He had a little baby hook. It just didn't work. He was I'm just going to dunk on people. But the right player, 100%.
Absolutely, it would work.
You think you could finish a skyhook over Robert Williams?
If you were as tall or tall. Kareem's 7'2", dude. Yeah, 100 times in a row. How's Robert Williams going to get to it? You're shooting it from 2.5 feet on the other side of your head. How's Robert Williams going to get to that without fouling you? You don't think they had guys like Robert Williams, like 6'10"? Trust me, I know. I recruited the kid. It's like 6'10". You don't think they had Robert Williams type people in the 80s? You don't think Patrick Ewing was a better defender than Robert Williams? You're crazy.
No. Patrick he can't get off the floor.
And young David Robinson, you are nuts.
Oh,
you're just not old enough. Trust me. Robert Williams is not David Robinson defensively, and he's 3 inches shorter.
One of my favorite names in the hobby is a guy named Pack Drip Ewing. So just shout it out to him because every time now I hear Pack Drip or Pack Rip Ewing, very much like that name. And every time I hear Patrick Ewing, I think of that. Guys, hope you enjoyed this debate. We'll do an interesting one. Maybe
we'll do it
next
again in
week
15, 20 years because we did this 15 years ago, Cajun and I.
Yeah.
And George Mikan was in our top 10, and now
For sure.
not even in the top 40 anymore.
So just to be clear, Andrew,
isn't in this.
Kobe's where? Just to wrap and summarize this up. Kobe is where, Andrew? Third on your list?
No. So he had
no.
He
so
had
my top three are
no. Just tell me where Kobe is.
On my list, he's 6th.
Really, Cage?
Yeah.
He's 8, and I'm gonna say 8.5. I'm gonna cover myself.
But during this conversation, I actually moved Kareem just down a peg. So it's Jordan, LeBron, Wilt, Shaq, and then Kobe, Kareem, Magic, Bird, Tim Duncan, Curry.
So you have Curry in your top 10. Curry cracks into your top 10.
I've talked about
that you have
that fourth championship.
Most for Kobe for his 9 first team all defensive awards that moved Kobe up is not going to also hurt Curry. It's interesting, man. It
probably hurts him if Curry had 9 All NBA first team defensive. He'd
probably move up a little.
Yeah.
The problem is Tim Duncan. You can't put Tim Duncan behind Curry yet. Curry's got to do a little bit more.
Tim Duncan and Bill Russell are this weird breed of like you can't compare anybody to them. Who do you compare Tim Duncan and Bill Russell to? They're boring, rebounding, but like you starting a team, this would be one of the 5 guys you take on your team. You know what you're getting from him day in and day out. And there's also an interesting conversation. It's like longevity versus peak that I think a lot about, right? Because there's guys not on this that at peak are like,
you know what I love?
Boogie,
I love
DeMarcus.
I'm trying to listen as we do this, right? And Andrew's got his list, right? So and I'm trying to listen as we do this and trying to figure out like what's the secret sauce. And what I come down with is 3 things. 3 things. And you have to have all 3 because 2 aren't enough, right? And the 3 things that I'm hearing, and this is very non-scientific, folks, it's individual stats combined with team stats. So you got to have your individual stats plus championships, plus you have to have some sort of an excitement factor to you. Because Kareem clearly had individual stats and team stats, but as Andrew says, he's boring as hell. Tim Duncan obviously has individual stats and team stats, but he's boring. So those 2 move him down a little bit, whereas Jordan and LeBron, Kobe moves up a little bit because of the excitement factor.
Kareem has some
Magic moves up.
Some political stickiness to him, though. Like he has that Muhammad Ali stickiness a little bit. That it's not exciting, but I think it sticks in people's minds.
Well, in today's world, that could move you up or down. It depends on it's in the eye of the beholder. We'll put it that way.
But you're right.
I mean,
Bird had the legendary trash talk, and I'm going left and I'm about to pull up over.
I mean, Bird was like Magic versus Bird, and then was Jordan versus Bird. He had video games, like he was the foil for Magic and for Bird. But I mean, Bill Russell, you could look at him and say, okay, he had the team championship, but he didn't even really have individual numbers and excitement. Who knows whether it's exciting or not? You know what I mean? So I get why it takes that rare breed to move in the top 5, and I understand if you look at those 3 criteria, why people might move Kobe up into the top 5, because it's very hard to have that combination of exciting player, clutch, Black Mamba, the mystique and the aura that he has, plus the team stats and the individual stats. You really, if you just go by that and you look at those 3 criteria, it's Jordan, LeBron, and him.
Let me ask you this question:
Magic. Yeah.
One last hypothetical, because I know we're on a hard stop. Sure. Yeah. If you dropped Kobe Bryant into 1962, how many points would he average?
I'd say about the same. He's a low efficient.
I think he would push the 50 that Wilt averaged.
You think he'd get more shots?
I just don't think anyone would ever stop him.
I mean, here's the thing.
Because he'd be the 3rd tallest player on the floor.
Would he also have to be a plumber in his spare time?
He would.
I think
he jumps higher than every accountant that he plays against.
There were no real Kobe stoppers. Kobe just took a bunch of stupid shots integrated with his good shots. Actually, I was thinking about a really similar question. Out of all this list, obviously Jordan in today's era would dominate. LeBron's still playing. But I actually think Bird's game would translate to today's era better than Shaq, better than Wilt, better than Kareem, better than Kobe, better than even Magic. I think Bird's game in today's day and age would dominate probably more. I think
he would make triple doubles feel like double doubles. But that is a fact. That's a fact.
They would run the offense. We got to bounce. Luka Nation, hope you enjoyed this. Cage, any final words? Cage, any final words?
This is fun, man. I mean, what's amazing about it is we have all stats. Even though you use stats and numbers to back this stuff up, when you make a list like this, I may value one stat more than you. You may value one stat more than the rest.
Wait.
It makes it fun. Okay,
Yeah.
let's keep it fun.
Keep
Thanks,
it
everybody.
fun.